Konnichiwa! So I want to talk to you about a few of my favourite things, a few of my favourite books. I'm not going to go into Lord of the Rings because basically I've done that. I've done the whole series on that. No I haven't. I actually lied to you in my last video. There is actually one more Lord of the Rings video left. I completely forgot until this very moment in time, but never mind, what you're going to do. That's my memory for you. It has never been that great for things like that. So I'm going to talk about some of the other books that I really, really like. So not The Hobbit, not Lord of the Rings, because I've pretty much talked about those already in several vlogs. I may have mentioned some of these before, but I'm going through them again, so there you go. I'm not going to bother getting them off my bookshelf, because if I get them off my bookshelf, I'll never be able to get them back on my bookshelf, because currently my bookshelf looks a bit like that. Absolutely stuffed full of books. I actually need to buy another bookcase, because I have doubled those up. That's not even half the books that you can see there. It's ridiculous. So I've chosen Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. I could have really chosen any book by him. I absolutely adore him as an author. I think he's absolutely wonderful. He's brilliant. I've read everything that he's ever written. But the reason Sputnik Sweetheart has a kind of place in my heart is because I was randomly looking for books by Japanese authors. And this is how I got into his works. And I came up with, in my search, Norwegian Wood, which is obviously the big one. That people in the West certainly know a lot about, but also Sputnik Sweetheart. And Sputnik Sweetheart was actually the first one I read, so I guess you could say it was my gateway into Haruki Murakami novels. And it's a very surreal, bizarre story which I couldn't even begin to give you a brief synopsis of, but essentially it's like a lot of his books, the protagonist, the narrator, is a man who's sort of in his 30s, he's a teacher, and he's had a long time love of this woman called Sumire, and she basically falls in love with an older lady from Korea originally, but she's lived in Japan for a long time and speaks Japanese, doesn't actually know any Korean. But this woman herself has this weird, twisted past where she's almost been split in two, and she seems to have lost her passionate side and cannot love. And one day, Sumire becomes her personal assistant, and they go on holiday together to Greece, and some weird thing happens, which means Sumire disappears, and so this protagonist goes out there to try and help find her, but learns a lot of really weird and disturbing things along the way. It's a very good book, and I very much suggest that you read it. The other thing is, I suppose I better mention the mangas that I really, really like as well, and how I got into manga. I actually got into manga through Death Note. I know it sounds a bit like a cliche, like everybody's read it, but actually it's absolutely brilliant. It was fantastic. It was weird, kind of, in my mind, reading a book backwards, which of course is forwards to the Japanese. But it was so thrilling. It hooked me. The whole story, the artwork, everything just hooked me straight away. So I moved on to Black Butler, and I'm still collecting Black Butler because Yamamoto is still producing Black Butler, which is fantastic, and I love it, and I am still reading it. And if you want to get into manga, this brilliant, brilliant thing to get into. There's elements of horror, comedy. If you like your Victorian history, it's all there for you. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's a classic, I know, all about love and pride and just wonder. It's just a wonderful book. It's just wonderfully written, and I just adore it. And yeah, the BBC adaptation from the 1990s was probably the best version, I think. Yeah, I'd say it's probably the best version that there's been for quite some time. But yeah, it's a good book. George Orwell's 1984 is also a very good book as well. I really, really enjoyed that book. It's very dystopian, very heart-wrenching, and actually if you read it today you might see quite a lot of it in today's modern world, which is just quite frankly terrifying, but you really should read that one. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, in a very sort of similar vein to 1984, but actually predates 1984 by quite some way. The idea being that there are different levels in society, and everybody is controlled by this drug called Soma, which keeps everybody sort of calm and happy and just in their place. But there are a few people from time to time who, for whatever reason, don't quite conform to the societal roles, and there's also what they call savages, which are a combination of sort of the ancient and the modern. We wouldn't actually see them as being particularly ancient societies, but they kind of are at the same time. And yeah, basically one day a woman is left behind in one of these savage reservations and has a baby, and that simply doesn't happen because all babies are born in test tubes in this particular society now, unless you are a savage. So she can't really cope with this, and the baby grows up sort of with this mixture of sort of savage and whatever. He doesn't really fit into any society. He doesn't fit into this modern society. He doesn't fit into the savage society, and it's basically all about this view of the world, and it's very, very brilliant. And Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, it's just the passion, the darkness, the gothic themes that run through it. I studied it when I was at college, so I don't want to go into too much detail because I could be here all night. I literally could. But it's brilliant, and again, I suggest you read it. Emily Bronte wrote one book, and that's all she needed to write. So that's just a few of my favourite books, and a very brief reason as to why, but I suggest you go and read them, and then we can talk about them on Twitter. Yay! That would be good, wouldn't it? Yes, so anyway, until the next video, sayonara.